name is Kathleen Lugrich, and I'm the Manager of Programs and Ticketing for the Army Historical Foundation and your host for Army Artifacts, a program for Army Historical Foundation members that demonstrates Army history can be found anywhere. Today, my guest is the Foundation's Chief Historian, Matt Seelinger, and together we will talk about the Davy Crockett weapon system and the National Museum of Nuclear Science and History in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Matt, what can you tell us about the Davy Crockett weapon system?
Well, the Davy Crockett was part of the Army's way of finding a mission in the Cold War. In this new age of nuclear weapons, the Army was scared it was going to get pushed out because a lot of people saw that nuclear weapons were going to make armies obsolete. You wouldn't need these big armies anymore because atomic weapons would be the primary means of defense now, defense or deterrence. And so the Army was looking for a role in the nation's defense. The Navy and the Air Force were going to have the primary mission of strategic weapons with long-range missiles fired from submarines and from missile silos. So the Army developed its own systems of nuclear weapons, shorter range missiles, tactical missiles, but also the Davy Crockett, which was essentially a recoilless rifle, or basically a large bazooka that was capable of firing a small tactical nuclear warhead.
Matt, was the Davy Crockett considered an effective weapon?
Well, luckily for us, they were never used on the battlefield. Otherwise, we may not be here. So they could have been effective. They had a relatively short range, and because of the range and the blast and the amount of radiation that was emitted when it detonated, the soldiers that fired it were advised to fire from say behind a hill, so they could be shielded a bit from the blast. And another problem, it wasn't terribly accurate, so you weren't even sure if you were going to hit anything or what you were trying to hit. And they would fire it from a shielded position, and then they were also recommended to dig a hole and then fire it, jump in the hole, and duck and cover, basically.
Did anything evolve from the technology that they used for the Davy Crockett, or did anything come after it? No,
there was nothing that followed on. There was the warhead that was used, was the W-54, I believe, was the smallest nuclear warhead that the United States has produced. It was also used in what they would call an atomic demolition charge. And they could use it to blow up bridges. If they really needed to blow up a bridge in a hurry, you would use one of these.
Now, the National Museum of Nuclear Science and History has a few items related to the Davy Crockett weapon system, which can be found in their online collection database at www.nuclearmuseum.org/c/exhibits. The link will take you to a summary of their exhibits and a link to the database, which is where we found a Davy Crockett casting and a metal wind tunnel scale model of a Davy Crockett recoilless rifle. Matt, what can you tell us about these particular objects that the museum provided for us?
Well, one of them is the scale model would be something that would use for wind tunnel testing to test the aerodynamics of the whole system, but particularly the warhead itself.
Matt, do you have any other interesting facts about the system that you can share?
Yeah, there's a couple that there were two actual tests of the warhead that was used with the Davy Crockett, the W-54. One of them, both tests were done at the Nevada Test Range. One of them was witnessed by Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General at that time, and Maxwell Taylor was also there. He was the special assistant to the President John Kennedy. The other interesting fact is that the second test was the last above-ground nuclear test at the Nevada Test Range. After that, all tests were underground.
Now, is there a reason why it's called the Davy Crockett?
Well, that's kind of one of the ironies of it, because Davy Crockett, was a noted marksman, and this thing wasn't terribly accurate. The explosive yield made up for any inaccuracies.
So, why do you feel the Davy Crockett weapon system is important to our history?
Well, it's important to Army history because it shows that nuclear weapons were seen as nuclear or atomic weapons were seen as a feasible weapon on the battlefield, and something that could be used tactically. That could be used to shoot at groups of tanks. Not the city destroying weapons that were on strategic missiles, ICBMs, SLBMs. So these were, as scary as we might think of that today, this was seen as something that would be used basically like any other weapon, to offset the large numbers of Soviet tanks in Europe compared to NATO.
How can others learn more about the Davy Crockett weapon system?
Well, one way to learn more about it is we published an article on the Davy Crockett in our quarterly magazine, On Point. There are, if you look at pretty much any book mentioning the U.S. Army in the Cold War, the Davy Crockett comes up.
Thanks, Matt, for sharing us your information and knowledge about the Davy Crockett weapon system. And just to let everyone know, the National Museum of Nuclear Science and History was established in 1969 and is a Smithsonian affiliate. It is also the nation's only congressional chartered museum in its field and is a place to learn, think, imagine, and draw your own conclusions. In fact, on their website, and this is what I love about them, it states, "Reactions are welcome." And you can learn more about them at www.nuclearmuseum.org. And I want to thank Matt for joining us. I also want to thank the Museum of Nuclear Science and History for allowing us to talk about their artifacts. Unfortunately, they were unable to join us. And I want to thank you as well for watching another episode of Army Artifacts.